What's the psychological impact of your being lied to on a scale such as this? Well, big picture is that it impairs your ability to discern fiction from reality. In one way, it deeply impacts our ability to discern real emotion from an act. When you go back now with a different set of eyes and look at the interviews right after one of these supposed events, these supposed tragedies, notice that none of the victim families or witnesses of these reported traumas are crying any real tears. Instead, some of them are weirdly in great and smiling moods, just a day or days after supposedly losing a loved one or witnessing a massive traumatic event. And you'll notice that not a single one of them display any appropriate emotion that matches the event or the tragedy that supposedly took place. Do you think that you're being a witness to story after story of supposed tragedies with emotions that don't match up at all with the situation being described doesn't have a deep psychological impact on you if you don't know what's happening? It can make others and even ourselves question our real emotional responses to real tragedies and events in our lives because we have no idea how programmed we are to seeing inappropriate emotional responses broadcast to us nonstop. Maybe we start feeling like something's wrong with us if we cry over something painful, or question our righteous anger when we feel it rising up within us at witnessing an outrageous injustice, and we do or say nothing because everyone else around us is apathetic. We're being subtly programmed to believe that the feigned and inappropriate emotional displays given by bad actors to fake tragedies is what's real. Another real impact to think about is how much money does this raise? Have you given any money in support of the victims of these supposed tragedies? Posting stories asking for prayers for the families and those affected on your Facebook? Having conversations about the latest stories with your family, friends, and coworkers? I know you are. The deception has worked extremely well thus far on all of us. That's what the intended purpose was. Well, maybe you're more like me and you've been able to see through this media fakery for a while now like I have. Maybe you've long ago turned off the mainstream media sources because of all the lies. And maybe you've turned to the alternative media that is found on the internet. That's a great start. I did the exact same thing. But you need to be aware that there's traps already laid out in the alternative media in preparation for those who would be able to begin to see through the lie. Controlled opposition is how that's done. Those who begin waking up and looking for an alternative view are kept in the net of deception with controlled opposition. We really shouldn't be surprised at this point if we were to find actors playing roles in the alternative media, now should we? Well, even as long as I've been able to see this kind of thing, I was still surprised to see this particular phenomenon for myself as to how this is being done in many cases. What I mean by this is that I'm not surprised to find controlled opposition infiltrating the alternative media realm, but what I am surprised by is who it is that they're placing in some of these controlled opposition positions. Here's a quick story. Many years ago when I became, in a word, awakened, YouTube was just getting started and an alternative media was just beginning to show up there. One of the first on the scene was Alex Jones from InfoWars. Before knowing anything about what I've presented even so far in this video, being newly awakened, I didn't know anything about actors at that point being used to tell fake news stories as if they were real events. But after listening only to a few of Alex Jones's podcasts, even being newly awakened, I knew there was something wrong there. The tone of his work was fear and anger, and he was throwing out tons of information, like information overload, much of what was impossible to independently verify, and it was all done in the energy of fear and anger. Those were enough red flags for me to stop listening to him. It was like almost worse than all the fear and propaganda that's perpetrated in the mainstream media. Well, at that time, I thought even if he was legitimately trying to do the right thing morally by telling people the truth about what's really going on in the world and trying to wake people up, that the way he was going about it couldn't possibly be the right way to do it. And after that, I didn't pay too much attention to Alex Jones, though I have noticed that his product InfoWars has grown to what appears to be gigantic proportions since I first listened to him over 10 years ago. It's ironic that at the same time in my life, one of the people I was listening to on YouTube was a comedian named Bill Hicks. I resonated with a lot of what I heard in his comedy. I resonated with what I believe to be his authenticity on stage, his intensity, his courage to take on controversial issues, like a lot of comedians. But he was really edgy. And some of the darkness that I interpreted showing up on stage could be attributed to human stumbles and life on the road, going club to club. But I resonated a lot of the things that he said I resonated with, and I had overall appreciation and respect for his gift. Bill Hicks' story ends sadly, as he is reported to have died in what is commonly known as 1994 from pancreatic cancer. I thought at the time that I was listening to Bill Hicks' comedy that it was sad that the world lost such a gifted comedian. But just like the Challenger space shuttle event, it turns out that who used to be one of my favorite comedians actually didn't die at all. Now, once again, I did not make this discovery, but I did my own photo comparison analysis and indeed found what other researchers who risked being called batshit crazy had found already, that Bill Hicks faked his death and came back as a new character in the alternative media named Alex Jones. The evidence for this one piles up pretty quickly once you do a little bit of digging. It turns out that both Bill and Alex are from Austin, Texas. They are both close friends and work with the same man named Kevin Booth. Not to mention that when we do this photo comparison analysis, you'll see Bill Hicks and Alex Jones have the same face. Like I said before, other researchers have brought other examples of this same phenomenon to light. Known celebrities faking their death, some coming back to play other characters in the media. But I'm only presenting here what I have found to be beyond any of my reasonable doubts. And I'm certain that Bill Hicks did indeed fake his death and become the new character Alex Jones. Let's take a look.